Hi everyone, welcome to 5 Questions with LeRoy Butler, and we're here on following the Packers. I don't know what kind of victory you would call that, but probably not as well played as they would like kind of victory.
Well, you could look at it. You could look at it a couple ways, but a sign of a good team is when you can win ugly like that. But you should have also won the Indianapolis game. That's a game I thought they would win.
Yeah.
So you have to value games like this. I know a lot of Packer fans wanted a blowout.
Yeah.
And I think Matthews alluded to it, that the crowd didn't have a lot of energy, and nor did the players.
No, that's a little controversial. I mean, I don't
well,
know.
he said himself too. He said it, he said it, the players didn't as well.
But you know,
but you kind of try to leave the fans out of it.
Do you recall ever having stadiums that were dead, so-called?
It happens.
Yeah.
But I think they feed off of us.
Yeah.
If I'm getting sacks, Reggie White's getting sacks, Brett Favre throwing touchdowns, we're all excited. But when that doesn't happen, then the crowd's kind of wondering, like we're wondering. And you look at the scoreboard, at one time it's 14-12. I mean, you're thinking, kind of what's going on. So.
Is there really such thing as coming out flat? I mean, you play 16 games. You know, I mean, it's not like you're playing every single day. You wait a whole week. You get, get yourself all built up for that game. Is there such thing as coming out flat?
I think it's something to it because of the game plan. This game plan seemed to be a little bit conservative. But if you come out of the locker room and out of the first 15 in your offense and you're going deep the first 7 plays, you're coming out with a lot of emotion. The reciprocal of that, a defense, the first 7 to 8 calls, you're blitzing the quarterback. You're making things happen. That avoids you from being flat on the road and at home. So typically at home, you're more aggressive. You know, you take your shots down the field. You blitz the quarterback, especially when he was the last rated quarterback in the NFL, Blaine Gabbert, which was shocking that he had 300 yards. But again, when you look at these games before the season, you circle ones you think you should win. And by what margin? And this was a game you didn't think that they were in position to drive down for the winning touchdown.
McCarthy had an interesting thing he said yesterday, Monday. He said, you know, guys were walking around like they lost the game. And he said, you know, hey, let's stop acting like we lost. We're 5-3. Move on to the next game, except that you won the game. You know, I mean, there's a balance he's got to sort of achieve there, doesn't he, in terms of this isn't good enough to win, but on the other hand, you know, we're 5-3.
Yeah, you got to look at half full, half empty, whatever. But as a coach, you got to get your players thinking about Arizona as soon as possible, win or lose. You also have to let your team know that we're in this fight with Chicago, and Minnesota just lost. So we're at where we want to be. And you also have to let your team know psychologically, if you take everybody in the NFL, all the teams, right, and you take away the 2 starting receivers, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, and their starting running back, they would struggle with Jacksonville as well. So as a coach, you got to let your players look at the big picture. We're playing a lot of rookies on defense. So it's some things to being not blowing teams out. We got different guys playing. Those guys got to get acclimated, and they will moving forward. And I think McCarthy does a good job of, come on, guys, look, it could be worse. Remember how we felt against Seattle and Indianapolis? Well, guess what? We don't feel that way now. We can make these corrections when we win.
Let's a couple hot button issues this week. One is the running game, and
what running game?
Yeah, what running game? That's a good way to put it. The numbers were really bad. Now you have to give McCarthy credit for running it.
He got more patience than me. I would abandon it.
In the past, he would have too.
Yeah, he would have.
But he seems to be pretty committed, and they seem pretty committed to Alex Green. Is that smart, or do you think they need to be out shopping for, you know, Steven Jackson or D'Angelo Williams or, you know,
I
Chris
think that
or someone like that?
I think for the most part, if he wasn't going to get Marshawn Lynch 2 years ago,
You're not
he
going
ain't
to
gonna do
trade
it
for
now.
Steven Jackson, right?
And that was your Marshawn Lynch after Aaron Rodgers endorsed it.
Yeah, and that was a guy they were going to draft that year, but you know, it never came to that. You know, they never got the chance.
And now he's in Seattle doing very well. But you have to establish who's going to be the guy. And Alex Green is the guy. You got to give him an opportunity. And we're going to talk about the X's and O's. Stay tuned for that. Dwayne McCarthy did put some wrinkles in for him to get some run. Try to get him going. And it happened for the most part, but again, if they don't like that, they still got Starks to go to.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll make any trades and go and get anybody else, because now you got to come in and hope that chemistry works. And of course, they're hoping for Cedric Benson to come back in another 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks.
Okay. Now, regarding James Starks, they said this week he missed practice on Thursday because he was sick. He was limited in practice on Friday. He's not played a whole lot the whole season because he's had this turf toe. Is it legitimate to say they don't feel, when they say we didn't feel comfortable putting him in plays he hadn't practiced much?
I think that's smart.
Is that legitimate?
Yeah, I think it's smart. You don't want to put a guy in and we're putting in new wrinkles in the plays and he hadn't practiced it. I mean, you got to go all the way back when Starks came on the scene in 2010 when they won the Super Bowl. In the playoffs, he showed them that he can carry the load. But lately, I don't think they have enough confidence in him, Tom, to give him 22 carries.
Yeah.
And they think this young kid, Alex Green, they think he can get it done protection-wise, and they think he's a better, he can catch the ball better than Starks. Starks had a drop. But at the same time, if they want to split the carries, give each guy 10 or 11 carries, maybe that'll work, a two-headed monster.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm okay with Alex Green. It just, for the most part, the offensive line has to give him the first line of defense. That's the first 2 to 3 yards.
Yeah.
After that, he got to avoid somebody in the secondary.
Yeah, I think one thing you saw with Cedric Benson was that if the line got a little bit of push, he got the last 2 yards.
Right.
You know, he could put his head down and get you the last, well,
and that's
you know,
what
the
you want.
third or fourth yard. And Alex Green has not shown that ability to.
Otherwise, Tom, their big plays come up of play action. Nobody's going to respect them if they only average 1.3 yards, 2.1 yards a carry. But the attempts, they're still, that's why McCarthy got to give him credit. He stuck with it. Case in point, play action, you can get James Jones down the field right behind that, you know, right in front of the safeties. Because Jacksonville played the safeties back deep.
Yeah.
You got to just be patient and take what underneath.
You got to get something, though. When they're keeping 6 guys in the box, you got to get something
that's
out
true.
of it.
That's true.
Another issue that people love to talk about, and we've talked about, Jermichael Finley. We looked at a couple of plays, particularly at the goal line. His production has not been very good. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He had another drop that, to me, was clearly a drop. What do you think is going on there? And based on some of the stuff that we saw, how much attention is he?
Well, I looked at every play he's been in, Tom. Every single play. And for the most part, he's open. And sometimes in the blocking plays, the effort is not there. And then sometimes they don't design plays for him to get open. You remember the play the way he used to be split out by himself with 3 wide receivers to the left, and they kind of throw him a fade. They haven't done that. They may continue to do it in the future. There was a couple times where he was open, Rodgers double pumped it to him and then eventually gave it to him, and they kind of had a conversation. You know, I'll get it to you, better timing. Also, you saw Rodgers throw it to him late down the middle, and Rodgers indicated, very animated, go up and get it. Well, the guy has a bad shoulder. He can't violently go.
Too.
So, and fans see that, and they see him getting up doing the fin.
That doesn't help his cause doing that.
But for the most part, if you look around the league, the teams who have pass-catching tight ends or a threat of that, they're the teams that are in the top 10 in the league. So whether you like him or not, as the fans, he's a big part of his offense because they had an opportunity to let him go free agent.
Yeah.
And they brought him back. So I think he'll be fine. And we pointed out a play in X's and O's. At one point, it was 3 guys on it.
Yeah, no, that's the whole thing, especially around the end zone, is that he draws a lot of attention. And there was a play against Houston, same thing. I'm sorry, it was against St. Louis. It was the Cobb touchdown.
Yeah.
He was bracketed on both sides. And we will show that in X's and O's, what kind of coverage he gets and how that opens things up for other people.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, he wants to do better. He see the Gronkowskis of the world, the Jimmy Grahams of the world, getting all these 10 to 15 targets a game, and he's not been able to do that. So he got to elevate his game. First, he got to get healthy. And I applaud him, Tom, for even playing injured. We see so many guys on that sideline with a ball cap on, and they're not playing. And injuries, probably severe, a little bit more severe than his, but he doesn't get credit for being out there for his teammates. And his teammates love him because they like the swagger that he has, and that swagger really fits the team's mode. Because when McCarthy was asked about panicking about to go 2-4, he said he doesn't like that. It's kind of a punk move to even think that.
Yeah.
So he's okay with that.
Yeah. Bottom line, he's got to produce when the ball's thrown to him.
Yes. And I think, real quick, chemistry is an issue with 12 and 88.
Yes, no question about it.
Yes.
They are not.
The chemistry is better with 18.
Yes.
Randall Cobb.
Yeah, well, let's not sugarcoat it. Rodgers has his favorites.
No question.
18 is his favorite.
Yes.
87 is his
Yes.
favorite.
And 85.
And 85.
Yeah.
And really, Donald Driver and Finley are not his 2 favorite receivers.
Right.
And so, say what you will about that, but that's the way.
Yeah,
that's
I think
the reality.
In the offseason, Tom, to wrap all this up, put a bow on it. In the offseason, Jermichael Finley and Rodgers need to come together.
Need to have a summit. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe even during the bye week they need to
even
do
during the bye week. Catch some passes while you're catching and throwing, air it out.
Yeah.
And just say, how can I make you better? How can you make me better?
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see whether any of that happens when the Packers
probably
play
won't,
Arizona
though.
this week. No, they wouldn't listen to us anyway. So,
Well, I want to thank Syndic's Ballester, owned and operated, for carrying my cookbook that you can pick up. You can go to lbf36.org to get it. And I want to thank the Salvation Army, doing the most good. And not only that, Tom, they sent a lot of relief up to Hurricane Sandy, where it was pounding the Northeast. They sent a lot of relief up there. And in Greenfield, if you want to go to a bowling alley up there, they're a huge sponsor up there. And W.J. Kuhn in Oak Creek.
And we will see you next week after the Cardinals game.
Right.